The recipient of the award for service to the university is the late Roger Kozak. To anyone involved in the Vermilion and campus community during the past 30 years, Roger Kozak is a name you recognize. Roger first came to the university as a business administration student in the 1960s, but he was called to service in the U.S. Army. After the Army, he returned and earned his undergraduate degree at the University in Springfield, and came back to USD to earn his master's degree and subsequently 2 doctoral degrees. He began his professional career at the University of South Dakota in 1979, following a stint in Pierre with the South Dakota Board of Regents. During his 22 years of employment with the University of South Dakota, Rogers, and in his loyal volunteerism after his retirement, Roger was a faithful and ardent supporter of the University of South Dakota. Anything he became involved with, he took ownership in and saw it through to successful implementation. Those who have worked with Roger know he had a passion for this university and for this community, and his efforts on behalf of both led to true progressive partnerships in the town-gown relationship. Anyone who worked with him knew he had a positive and can-do spirit, and he ignited in them the ability to see beyond any obstacles that may be before them and to realize that the objectives were obtainable. Earlier this year, I had the honor of advising Roger he would be recognized with this award. And his response was what we have come to know of Roger. It was humble, gracious, and infused with pride in his association with this institution. Roger lost his battle with cancer just several weeks ago, but the work and the impact of his leadership will not soon be forgotten. Accepting the award on behalf of Roger is Dave Lorenz.
Thank you. Well, it's my privilege to accept this award on behalf of the Kozak family and in honor of my friend Roger. This is going to sound a little similar to what Kirsten just said, but I was visiting with Roger shortly after she had notified him that he was receiving the award. And in his typical way of reacting, he was very delighted and he was honored to have been named a recipient, but he immediately started to think of all the other people that were more deserving than he was. Always the eternal optimist, he said to me at that time, "Now, Dave, I don't know, I may not feel good enough to stand up there and accept the award myself. So I'd appreciate it if you'd be prepared to accept it on my behalf." Of course, I said yes. I only wish he was here to share the moment. Please allow me to introduce some special guests. First, I'd like to introduce Roger's best friend and wife of 42 years, Pat Kozak. Pat, please stand. It's also my pleasure to introduce Roger's sister and brother-in-law, Jane and Ron Rada, from La Crosse, Wisconsin. Jane and Ron. I'll try to be brief, but permit me to touch briefly on why this man was so special to so many. I read not too long ago, the best things in life are never rationed. Friendship, loyalty, and love do not require coupons. Roger accomplished many great things in his life, many professional things, but he never lost sight of what was important, including friendship, loyalty, and love. Friendships were very important to him, and he had a broad range of friends at the university and the city, throughout the nation as a result of his work in Rotary. Fellow sailboat enthusiasts, his Texas winter friends. He had friends everywhere. What I do know is that it didn't matter to Raj if you had an important job or made a lot of money. He just treated everyone as he would like to be treated himself. And for those of us who were privileged to call him a friend, we knew that he was never too busy, never too tired for his friends, and he never took his friends for granted. Loyalty is quite possibly the thing I admired most about Roger. If he was your friend, he was loyal to you even when you didn't deserve it, and I include myself in that category. He was a loyal employee to a series of university presidents, 5 in fact. He started out in Pierre on the staff of former university President Bowen when Dr. Bowen served as the Commissioner of Higher Education. The Kozaks then moved to Vermilion, where Roger's USD career started under President Chuck Lean's leadership. Next was a prominent role with Roger's very dear friend, Joe McFadden, followed by his role as a confidant and advisor to Betty Turner Asher, and finally as the right-hand man to President Abbott. Roger was the consummate fixer. If you knew him, you know what I mean. And presidents usually gave Roger the most delicate and difficult tasks to deal with. President Abbott gave me permission to share a little story that proves the point of Roger's reputation. Shortly after Jim became president, he was expressing some frustration to Colette about his inability to get something done. And his daughter Nancy, who at the time was about 8 years old, but was tuned in sufficiently to the conversation to comment, said, "Well, Dad, just call Roger. Everybody else does." Finally, love. This man loved life. He was even wise enough, and yes, fortunate and blessed enough, to retire early. But that early retirement allowed Pat and him to share some very special retirement years together. His love of life and his sense of peace with his life was even apparent the day he gave my wife, Janette, and I the grim news of his prognosis. I remember we were in his living room, and he stood up and he said, "I'm going to get up every morning. I'm going to look at the sunshine through that picture window, and I'm going to love every day I'm given." Roger also shared his love and kindness with others. I think of my son and daughter, who Roger treated as his own children. Dennis and Kathy Chandler would no doubt share the same sentiment about Roger and how he treated their children. But most of all was his love for Pat.